Hey there, entrepreneur. Welcome back to another fascinating episode of Fascinating Founders. I'm your host, Nicole Holland, and I'm thrilled to be your guide as we dive in and uncover the stories that came before the success of some of the world's most fascinating founders. Hailing from a multitude of industries and socioeconomic starts, you're going to learn what's made these fascinating men and women realize their dreams from an inspired idea to millions in revenue, disrupting, innovating, and impacting humanity for the better. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Podcasting Goldmine. Are you reaching and converting your ideal buyers through podcasts yet? You'd better believe that your competition is. The podcast industry is exploding right now, with billions of dollars being poured into it and well over 1 million active podcasts in the directories. In just the past 90 days alone, hundreds of thousands of new podcasts have been added, and the industry will continue to grow whether or not you're a part of it. Your market, my friend, is listening to podcasts, and I would love to personally help you design a strategic podcast marketing plan to help your company scale and reach your business growth goals through podcasts. From getting you featured as the expert guest on premium podcasts that your ideal buyers are already listening to designing and launching a profitable podcast for your company, to show sponsorship and advertising. Podcasting for business growth is totally my jam. If you're ready to take a serious look at how you can effectively leverage podcasts for business growth, visit podcastinggoldmine.com and request a complimentary consultation for us to explore how we can make podcasts work for you. Again, that URL is podcastinggoldmine.com. Now, you never know what we're going to get into on an episode of Fascinating Founders. So get your notebook ready, cozy up with a great cup of joe, and let's dive into another inspiring journey with today's guest. Cathryn Lavery is a serial entrepreneur and designer. As co-founder and CEO of Best Self Co., she took the company from 0 to 8 figures in less than 2 years. She also won Shopify's Build a Business competition in 2016 and the Build a Bigger Business competition in 2017, making Best Self Co. the only company to win both awards consecutively. As an Irish immigrant with a standing start and zero business experience, Cathryn has transformed herself into a serial entrepreneur, creating multiple brands and even helping others bring their ideas to life. Cathryn and her work have been featured in Fast Company's 2017 Innovation by Design Awards, as well as Entrepreneur, MTV, Huffington Post, Forbes, Inc., and more. Cathryn Lavery, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here with us today to talk about your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nicole.
Absolutely. So let's kick things off with you giving our listeners just a quick overview of what you and your company do and the market that you serve.
Yeah, so my company's called Best Self, and we create tools to help people achieve more, think bigger, and also be present. So we started with the Self Journal, which is based on a 13-week goal system. So not just sort of organizing your life, but really planning where it is you want to go. And then we've gone into creating tools around helping people have better relationships, both like intimate relationships and friendships, because we realized we kind of started with this type A person around goals and getting the most done in the little amount of time so we could do more. And then I think, hitting some goals myself, you hit all these business goals and the things that we grow up thinking is going to make us happy. And then you get there and you're like, oh, wait, there's actually more to life than this. So Best Self has kind of become a place where we can help people lead a fulfilled life in every area.
I love it. And as a Best Self Journal user, and also having played with so many of your products, I love your cards that have prompts for writing and for conversation and to get people out of their comfort zones. You guys have so many neat tools. And I do love that, how it's not really, your tools don't isolate. It's not like just for X. It's really, it feels like, to me as a user at least, it's very holistic in nature.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey for sure. And I think that has been part of my own personal journey is again, like I said, starting with one intention of, hitting all these goals, and then we hit these business goals, and, I'm feeling personally like I'm not where I want to be. So then it became more of, okay, what else is missing? And so that's kind of where these other products and ideas came from, of really helping people live more fully and not just for work, which is pretty much what we're brought up to focus on. And again, I think it does take you getting to a certain place and then realizing how much more you're missing out on.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you, was Best Self the first entrepreneurial endeavor of yours, or did you have anything before that?
So I've been pretty entrepreneurial growing up, even though I didn't know anyone else. Like, I didn't know entrepreneur was an actual job. I uh, I had an eBay business when I was like 13 to 14, and then I was an architect. So I pretty much became an architect because I didn't know that you could just run your own business or do anything like that. And then when I was an architect in New York, I started a business on the side of that, which was a e-commerce store, but it was designing products, and that ended up doing well. Ended up making me enough that I left my job. I sold it later. Then I had a software thing for a second. Learned a lot about just how to build something and take an idea and make it reality, but it wasn't in an area or an industry that I was particularly passionate about, which I realized that I'm a creative person. I like to make products, and I like to make things. And when it comes to selling it, I'm not as excited about that. So, that when we first started Best Self, it was really, I was coming at it from the problem solving creative type of thing rather than from a marketing point of view. And I'm pretty much like product first, marketing second, but I've had a couple of things. This is definitely the most successful one that I've had. But I think that every project or company or product that I've done up to this point, all was like it's just like a brick in the same wall of learning things that I didn't know that has helped me with this business.
I love it. And I think that a lot of founders and entrepreneurs can really relate to that creativeness and the desire to create and desire to get excited about things, but not getting excited about selling. So with a product-based business, obviously you have to sell. With any business, you have to sell. So how did you overcome those challenges?
I mean, when we started, I had a business partner that was into marketing. So it was very much like at the beginning, he was more on the sales side of things. I was more on the creative side. I also felt like, okay, how do I create something that sort of is a great product that is not a hard sell, and that really solves the problem? So I think that's the first thing is, as long as you always know that you're creating something that is of value and that people are really going to get a lot of benefits from, it's much easier to sell in that regard.
Nice. And you mentioned you had a partner. So how did that happen? Like, did you have a partner for your other business ventures as well? Or were you solo until you decided to do the Best Self Journal?
I was solo until then. And we met in an entrepreneur group.
Do you have any, was there anything that kind of went through your head that you're willing to share, or any experiences that you're willing to share about picking a partner? Because I think this is something a lot of people find challenging, is finding that right fit and being willing to take that risk of sharing something that you put everything into with someone else. So is there anything you can tell us about kind of your journey to getting and did you know you wanted a partner before you found him, or was it organic? Did you meet him and then decide to partner? I'd love to know more about that part of the journey.
So we were accountability partners for about a year before we started anything together. And then we had an Amazon business where, I was sourcing products and creating a brand on Amazon before we did Best Self. So it was very much like, it was not very aligned with my values as far as the Amazon thing, because it wasn't really things that we cared about or whatever.
Just
So
money then. Really, that was just commerce related.
Yeah, it was exactly. And so it wasn't like a long-term play. It was very much like a short-term play. I think with when you're looking for a partner, figuring out what your skill sets are and how are they complementary to each other. Are you doing the same role? You don't need a partner that you both doing the same thing. I think also is there's different positions and needs at different times of the business. So at the beginning, like both of us, it was important because it was really just us. And then really having a structure in place that protects you and the company if one of you decides, okay, I want to do something else. One thing I would have done differently is sort of a vesting type thing instead of, and I know this is kind of normal with startups a lot, but we didn't really know what we were doing at the time, but really vesting over time so that if someone after, a year, 2 years decides, okay, I want to do something else, it's not someone that gets 50-50. I would also never do a 50-50 partnership. Again, it would be vested over time. And also it's very rare that it's really 50-50 of roles and responsibilities. So, at the beginning, it's kind of like, things are the best then. And so it's hard to believe that anything could ever, go wrong or change. But, people are humans and we all go through different life chapters. And so what we wanted at one point might not be what we want later. And so really sitting down and putting an operating agreement together that is really solid in aligning, okay, if this happens, this is what we do. If this happens, this is what we do. That's the best thing that you can do to sort of set yourself up for success and make sure that hopefully things don't go sideways, but if they do, that you're protected and the business that you've built is also protected.
Such good advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Talk to me about how you decided to go from the journal. I believe that was your first product. I could be wrong, so clarify that for me if I am. But how you went from the one product and started adding on, or did you just know you wanted lots of products from the beginning?
So I didn't know what the product line would look like at the beginning. I knew that the self-journal was the first product, but I was kind of thinking ahead as far as what the brand would be called. So I didn't want to call it just self-journal. I wanted it to be like Best Self because there's so much that could go into that. So it kind of left a lot of freedom to what could go along with it. But then again, was pretty, it kind of spoke for what it is that we were trying to do. So we started with the self-journal, which we launched on Kickstarter. And the other products, we realized that there's basically 3 tiers of products. And we've done this over time as we've made mistakes and we've learned is that there's tier A products that are products that people are going to come and find you for. So it's like self-journal or the decks or things like that, where it's like solving a problem and people will search you out for that. And then there's tier B products that are kind of accessories to tier A so that they're not going to come find you for those, but they really upgrade tier A products. And then there's tier C products that are like brand products, which only like your top people and fans are going to buy because they love you and the brand, but nobody off the street, if they don't know you, would buy. And so really figuring out, okay, if we're looking at, 70, 20, 10, so 70% of our time and development and energy should be focused on creating and marketing tier A products, and then 20% on tier B, and then 10% on tier C, because it's not really about solving a problem. It's really about, building the brand side of things, which is easier because you're doing the things in tier A and tier B that already do that. These are just like nice to haves and not need to haves.
Thank you. Wow, that was super, super helpful and really interesting. So, cool. What are there any things like since you've been doing this and like you guys have gotten quite a bit of positive feedback pretty quickly, right? Didn't you ring the stock exchange bell and you were on the cover of a magazine? Like these are things that you had pretty quickly along. Is that right? Or am I mistaken?
Yeah. Well, so we launched our Kickstarter in mid-August 2015, and then we launched our store on Shopify January 1st, 2016. And then we ended up winning the Build a Business competition, which is a competition that Shopify do where it's for brand new businesses that haven't previously had a business. So they want to essentially give a contest or put together a contest that for the best stores on their platform. And they do this by creating these amazing prizes that you would never get otherwise. So instead of it being like a money-based thing, it's like we got to ring the New York Stock Exchange bell, and we went to the Gatsby Mansion along Long Island with like Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss and Marie Forleo and Damon John. I played Monopoly with Damon John for like 6 hours.
That's so fun.
And it was it started with like eight or nine of us, and it was down to me versus him, and it's like 2 a.m. And it was funny because it was just like after that, I think just sitting playing, I learned later that he really judges, or not judges is maybe the word, is really when he invests in anyone, he will play Monopoly with them because he'll understand, okay, how they strategize, how they are they fair, do they try to cheat at all, things like that. And so I only learned that afterwards. So then after he's like, wow, it's like you're really great at strategizing and all this stuff. And it was funny because then after he ended up being a huge supporter and affiliate for us, and really like we didn't take any investment from him, but he's been a big supporter of the company. And so then in 2017, we scaled, 3 to 4x within the 10 months. And they announced this Build a Bigger business competition. So they take your sales at the start and then 8 months later and see who grew the most. So it's really about how you are growing. So it's for companies that are doing over $1 million and less than, I think 30, I forget exactly, and see how much they grew. And so we ended up winning for the year after, which they'd never done before. And we got to go to Fiji with Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss and Marie Forleo again and Damon. It's just like insane. We got to ring the stock exchange bell again. So it was like this once in a lifetime event that we got to do twice. So it's just like incredible sort of press and experiences that we got pretty early on.
Amazing. And how do you feel like that impacted your business from the outside? So obviously, getting to be supported by and getting to know personally these brilliant leaders, world leaders who can support you internally, that the press, the positioning, things like that, how did that affect your business, do you think?
I mean, I think it definitely, of course it helped. I think because, well, it's funny because our thing was, okay, let's take a goal, we'll break it down and we'll show you how to get there. So we'd done it for our Kickstarter. So our goal at the time was 15,000, which we hit in 28 hours. And then we went on to do like 322,000 in a month. And then after that, my goal, it was the day after our Kickstarter ended and we're in this like hangover of, oh God, what's the next thing? And Shopify sent out this email about their contest. And I'd known about the contest for a few years. I even entered it with my other Shopify store years before, but I wasn't even like close to coming in any sort of leaderboard, but it was just like this thing that I had in the back of my mind. So when I got this email, I was like, oh, we're definitely applying for that. And then I printed out I made, just sounds so like nerdy, but I like printed out like this poster of like, okay, this is the goal that I want. And then best case scenarios, we hit it, but we don't really have a lot of control over that. But we do have a control of like, how do we create a sustainable business, which is a win in itself. And so really being strategic and breaking down big goals into, okay, how do we have to show up every day to get there? And I think like people seeing that we kind of eat our own dog food and do that was powerful, because then it was like, okay, they really do the things that they tell other people to do.
Cathryn, you are fascinating, and this conversation has been fascinating. And I wish we had more time to I have so many questions for you, but we are going to have to wrap up shortly. So before we do, can you sum up your very best advice for a business owner who wants to follow in your footsteps in about 60 seconds or so? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to always show up and give more value than you take, because then people will always feel like there's a law of reciprocity there. Be consistent with what you do, so don't change and go after the new shiny object all of the time. I've had like I mentioned at the beginning, I've had a few different projects. And when I look back, there's learnings, like very specific learnings that got me to where I am now. So one thing is like staying consistent. Don't, go for the shiny object all the time. But if something is not working or you're not aligned with it, like the software product that I had wasn't aligning with me. So in the long term, it wasn't going to be a good fit. So not getting into that sunk cost bias of sticking with something, even when you know it's not what you want to do, because what you learn from it, you can take on to the next thing. So consistency, knowing when the right thing is, and always like showing up and giving value and having integrity.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. Before I let you go, let's make sure that everybody knows how to reach you. So feel free to share any links we should know, as well as any final words of wisdom you've got for us.
Yeah, so you can see all of the stuff that I just talked about on bestself.co. I have a personal blog on littlemight.com, which is just my way of being like, you can be one person, but you can make a big change in the world. And then on social, it's just my name, Cathryn Lavery. So yeah, I would love to help anyone that I can. Any wisdom, just feel free to reach out to me, and I will answer any questions that I can.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And there you have it. Thanks again for tuning in. I do realize that there are about a million other things you could have been doing over the past half hour, and the fact that you chose to spend it listening to this podcast means the world to me. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway from today's episode was, so feel free to send it on social, tagging me at the Nicole Holland on Facebook or Instagram, or send me a message from my website, fascinatingfounders.com. You'll also find show notes with the transcript from this and all other past and future podcast episodes on the website. That URL once more is fascinatingfounders.com. Thanks to my podcasting goldmine team for the production of today's episode, and a special shout out to Effie Ceruti for composing the intro and outro music for this season. If you're looking for custom composed music for your own podcast or any other aspect of strategy, design, or production for your existing or new podcast, the Podcasting Goldmine team can help. Give us a ring at 218-GET-SEEN or contact us through the website for a custom quote. And once again, if you are ready to explore effectively leveraging podcasts for business growth, visit podcastinggoldmine.com and request a complimentary consultation to explore making podcasts work for you. Again, that URL is podcastinggoldmine.com. Coming up on Fascinating Founders, I'm excited to introduce you to more fascinating men and women who've taken their inspired idea and against all odds have grown it into a multi-million or billion-dollar enterprise. Until next time, this is Nicole Holland signing off.